is this guy Klaus Schwab one more time, and what are they really up to?
Yeah, so founded the WF, the World Economic Forum. And I think it's important to understand too, like where we're at in the world, right? We're at this peak centralization, central planning.
Right.
I like to say central planning always fails. And because they don't have enough data, they know they don't have enough data. You can't organize billions of people, right? But they're trying to. And so central planning, so it's World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, World Trade Organization,
Fauci?
World Meteorological Association, and then the UN, the IMF, the BIS.
What's the BIS?
So that's the
Bank of International Settlements.
The Bank of International Settlements, that nobody knows what the BIS is. And the BIS...
It's a central bank.
The central bank of central banks, exactly. And so if you look at an org chart, I have in a presentation I gave, I had an org chart of the way I see the world. On the org chart, the BIS sits at the top. Below the BIS, then you have some of these think tanks. So the World Economic Forum is one of them, the Club of Rome. And so they're the policy makers. And then they push it down to the next row in the org chart to the policy enforcers, which are the governments. And so the governments sit a few levels down. So it's really a coup of the bankers. And they use this banker, the BIS at the top, push these ideas through the think tanks and then down to the policy enforcers. And then we're down at the bottom of the subjects of all that, right? Klaus is kind of running this. He's sitting on top of the world, flying their private jets over to Davos, telling us that we need to cut back on our energy, telling us that we need to eat the bugs. This is on their website. They're talking about why we should be eeating bugs or more sustainable. Nicole Kidman, she made a commercial, I think 2 weeks ago, of her actually eating bugs. That's what they're putting on TV now.
So food, we were talking about food. Let's talk about food. What's happening? So we talked about Sri Lanka. What's happening in Europe?
Yeah, so let's talk about food. So the food is the first attack vector. So I was on Fox Business 2 weeks ago. They asked me about an article the UN put out, when the UN titled the article, Why Being Hungry is Good. And they were saying we need people to be starving because there's all these jobs that have to be done that nobody would do unless they were starving.
Who said that?
It was an article on the UN website.
Wow.
Like I said, Fox had me on to talk about it. They took it down after half a day because the backlash was so insane. Per the UN, about 868 million people could starve to death in the next 24 months, almost a billion.
In the next 24 months?
Yeah. So Marxism, whenever Marxism has been tried in Russia in the early 1900s, about 25 million people starved to death. In Mao's Great Leap Forward, about 50 million people starved to death. Those were horrific, 50 million people.
And they killed them too.
We're talking about almost a billion now. And so at a time when we have almost a billion people that could be starving to death, shouldn't we be trying to get as much food as possible out? We would try to do everything we can. But in Holland, they've gone and shut down the farms. They're trying to take over their land, and they want to take over the farms and stop them from growing not just food, but also raising cattle and meat. It's massive protests are happening in Holland at a time where we need more food. In the United States, the farmers are being paid not to plant. They're not allowed to plant on some of their land. And they went and they petitioned the Secretary of Agriculture and said, hey, let us plant. We can get more food. And they said, no, it's not in line with our agreement for the Paris Accord.
Paris Accord.
Environmental thing.
Which is the environmental thing, which is what President Trump had pulled us out of. And then Biden's very first day in office, the most important thing he had to do by executive order was put us back into the Paris Accord. So we can't grow food in the United States because of, climate change. Holland can't grow food. And now the protests are happening all over the world. And it's even bigger. So like all throughout Europe, there's an energy crisis going on. Everybody should know that by now. I've been talking about it for 2 years. And they don't have natural gas. They're dependent on Russia for natural gas. But we need natural gas in Europe to make fertilizer. And we need fertilizer to grow food. We also need natural gas to process food.
Okay, what are the three things what did the kitchen service say? The three
so food,
points?
And then the next one is the energy.
And next one is?
And then the money.
Right, and that's what Records is talking about. CBDC, central bank digital currencies.
I'm constantly reminded by an Ayn Rand quote from Atlas Shrugged, where she says, when you must receive permission to produce from men who produce nothing.
Not that I'm a lawyer or anything, but when I studied business law, they said intent is everything.
Yeah.
You can do something and make a mistake, or was it intentional? Two different stories there. What's the intent of Kissinger, Klaus Schwab, and that like Trudeau is part of this camp too, right?
This is something I struggle with a lot, and I ask on my videos quite often, is it stupid or is it evil?
I go with evil.
It's both, right? So there's certainly people that know what they're doing and it's evil. And then I think there's a lot of people that have just come up in the system and they're just brainwashed by it. In the Avengers, they had this, the evil guy was Thanos. And he came up with this theory where he had to kill half the world in order to save half the world, right? We had to get rid of half the population, kill half the world to actually save the world. And I feel that's where they are at. They feel that this is a necessary sacrifice, and they're telling us as much. I mean, the Secretary of the Energy for the United States is on TV telling people, we get it, gas prices are expensive, you can't afford to drive, but it's necessary. It's necessary for the transition.
For the greater good.
For the greater good. I mean, Putin's saying that Americans must sacrifice and must suffer because we have to defeat Russia. It's for the greater good.
But the Achilles heel is that third one, which is the money supply.
Money, and that's the big one.
And that's what I wrote about in Capitalist Manifesto, is this book here. The Central Bank of the United States was founded in 1913. Guess what else was founded in 1913? Tax Department.
The Federal Reserve and the IRS.
Yep.
And so when you look at all this, and then if you read Marx, he says that a progressive income tax is necessary for the spread of communism. And then when they cut off Keystone XL pipeline, inflation went through the roof. Now the poor are already poor, but when you raise inflation, the price of fuel, the middle class got poor. And now when I shop, I look around and I go, the retailers, everything's on sale. I can't help myself. Money, I'm having a great time. But I feel for the retailers right now because the customers are going broke. So is the intent evil?
In the Communist Manifesto, number 5, he had 10 points. Number 5 was the creation of a central bank. So central banks are part of Marxism.
Of course.
That's the whole goal.
Yeah.
The central bank is communism, central controlled economy. Well, most people are completely uninformed.
Oh, totally uninformed. So let me ask you this. There's a lot of talk about what you do and how you prepare and how you get food and you buy gold and all of this, but there's a bigger what to do. What do we do? Is it possible to turn this thing around?
So it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So if you're just trying to protect yourself and like, can I go live on a mountaintop and protect myself till I die?
Yeah.
Or am I going to try to save the world? So I'm trying to save the world, right? We're on different things. In the book, the Uncommunist Manifesto, we did our same 10 points, and point number 4 was the abolition of any and all central banks. So we just say we need to end it. Obviously you guys are educators and I've now become an educator, and I think good ideas win because they're better. And I think if we can have good, intelligent discussion, then we can turn the tide on this thing. So I think that we need to highlight how bad and disastrous these ideas are, and then show that there are better ideas out there. Now, they've done a really good job of taking over the education system. So when communism was defeated in the 70s and really started in about the 60s, it kind of went underground and it came into the universities in the United States. And so they've done a really good job playing this long game, and they started with changing the college-age kids' viewpoints on these things, who have now moved into media, who have now moved into government.
This goes back to what, the 60s?
The 60s, yeah. So
actually, it was 1930 that the Frankfurt School sent teachers to Columbia University's Teachers College, and that's when it spread. Because in the 60s, I remember Columbia first time rioting. I'm going, why are they rioting? But it was in the 60s. It was against the Vietnam War, and then when I came back from Vietnam, I get hit with eggs and spit on and called baby killer. It was college kids.
Yeah.
It's not improved. Now we have TikTok, and TikTok is scrambling. It's turning their brains into scrambled eggs. It's a Chinese organization.
We can use those tools, and we've talked about that extensively, and we will. So I think we have to use their same playbook, fight fire with fire, if you will, right? And so get back into the education and start changing their mind. The one thing that we have to our advantage is their ideas don't work. Left to their own, they fail.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So Nietzsche says, that which is falling, shall ye also push. And so it's already fallen. The system's crumbling. The financial system is done. Like the EU's on the verge of breaking up. The bond problem that they have is one that they probably can't solve over there. The pigs nations down below, they're done. Germany has, lost its position. The energy is too high. Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain. So the southern nation, the European Union, Italy and Greece have to constantly be bailed out. They don't have any production. Germany's been the production engine of Europe, but now they've become a net importer. The energy prices have gone so high that they can't afford to produce anymore, and they have to import their energy. But why do they have to import their energy? Well, they shut all their nuclear reactors off. And when
did they do that?
Well, over the last decade, they've been shutting them down. And so their energy prices have gone up by 8 times, when next door, France, they still have cheap power because they still have nuclear. So in Europe, they have massive amounts of shale gas like we do in the United States, but they don't want to get it out. Humans can take a lot of abuse from governments, but when you can't eat or feed your family, that's when it's like game on, right? 9 meals to anarchy, they say. You don't eat for 9 meals, it's on, right?
Well, 3 for me.
What they've been doing is they've been taking to the streets, sort of like we saw in Canada with the truckers, but now it's the farmers with their tractors. And they're taking these tractors and they're making the Canadian truckers look like child play. I mean, they are out in serious droves. Some of the farmers got arrested. The farmers went to the police station, surrounded them, and made them release the farmers. They've been filling up the city with manure. They blocked the airports. The fishermen have gotten involved. Now the fishermen are blocking the ports. I even saw the farmers broke into the military base and started dragging jets out of the military and putting them on the roads to block.
Good for them.
But now it's spread to Poland. It's spread to Germany. All the farmers are uniting in protest.
So it's backing up. It's like the drain got clogged and now it's backing up on Klaus Schwab and buddies.
Yeah. And so now they're like, well, if we can't grow food, then no food. You get no food then. The shelves are bare and they're feeling the pain.
Well, the last time I was in Hawaii, they said, what do you think is going to happen? I said, I hope you like the taste of human flesh. Nobody laughed on that one. But, well, because Hawaii is an island, they import most of everything they eat.
Okay, so first it was the truckers, right? Truckers in Canada, truckers in the U.S. Now it's the farmers. So you look at who the critical people are in the world, farmers, and then truckers have to get the food from the farm to the people. It actually is a big wake-up call for.
And then we have
me.
Jim Records coming on in a few days on Rich Dad Radio, and we'll be talking to him about CBDC, which is central bank digital currency, which is spyware. It's much like TikTok is.
Yeah.
But our job is to wake people up and then fight back using the same technology, which I agree with. Let's fight back with education and information.
Did you enjoy the video? Please let us know by smashing the like button and commenting what part of this video you find helpful. While you're still here, you can also check out these videos of Robert Kiyosaki. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep this investing tips a secret.